Hi there, and welcome. Today's story is one that cuts deep. It's about strength, not the kind you show to the world, but the kind you fight to find when no one is watching. It's about a woman who gave everything to her calling, until there was nothing left for herself. This is more than just a story about medicine. It's about burnout, compassion, and rediscovering hope. In the quietest, most broken places, take a breath and join me as we step into the world behind the hospital doors. I had to cry in the bathroom just to get through the day. The fluorescent lights of St. Jude's Hospital buzzed with a relentless energy that mirrored the chaotic symphony within Dr. Anya Sharma's mind. Each hum, each flicker, felt like another hammer blow against the already crumbling fortress of her sanity. She gripped the cold porcelain of the sink in the hospital bathroom, her knuckles bone white, the faint scent of antiseptic doing little to quell the rising tide of nausea. Tears, hot and unwelcome, streamed down her face, blurring her already strained vision. Another day, another shift. Another impossible equation of lives to save and resources stretched thin. And another bathroom breakdown, her sanctuary of stolen moments, a desperate attempt to simply breathe. Anya wasn't always like this. She remembered a time not so long ago when the weight of the world, though heavy, didn't threaten to crush her completely. She remembered a time when the sight of a patient, their eyes filled with hope, filled her with purpose, not dread. She remembered a time when she could sleep through the night, without the ghosts of misdiagnoses and coded pages haunting her dreams. Her journey to St. Jude's had been paved with ambition, fueled by a genuine desire to alleviate suffering. The daughter of immigrant parents, Anya had felt an almost sacred obligation to make something of herself, to repay the sacrifices they had made. Medicine had seemed like the perfect avenue, a way to combine her intellectual curiosity with her innate compassion. She excelled in medical school, driven by an unwavering work ethic and a deep-seated need to prove herself. Residency was brutal, a baptism by fire, but she survived, fueled by caffeine and the camaraderie of her fellow residents, all equally sleep-deprived and stressed. The attending physicians, often gruff and demanding, were nonetheless respected, their years of experience etched into their faces like maps of countless battles fought and won. Anya learned from the best, absorbing their knowledge and their unwavering dedication to their patients. After residency, she landed her dream job at St. Jude's, a renowned hospital known for its cutting-edge research and its commitment to serving the underserved. She was eager to contribute, to make a difference, to be a part of something bigger than herself. The first few years were exhilarating. Anya thrived in the fast-paced environment, relishing the intellectual challenge and the emotional rewards of helping people heal. She worked long hours, often staying late to review patient charts or consult with colleagues. Her personal life suffered, but she justified it by telling herself that her work was more important, that lives depended on her. She poured all of her energy into her patients, becoming their advocate, their confidant, their lifeline. She celebrated their victories and mourned their losses, feeling deeply connected to their journeys. But slowly, insidiously, the cracks began to appear. The relentless pressure, the bureaucratic hurdles, the constant exposure to human suffering began to take their toll. The victories became fewer and farther between, while the losses seemed to multiply. She started to feel like she was constantly fighting a losing battle, a Sisyphean task of pushing a boulder uphill only to have it roll back down again. The hospital, despite its reputation, was plagued by systemic issues. Understaffing was rampant, forcing Anya and her colleagues to work longer hours and take on more responsibilities. Resources were scarce, limiting their ability to provide optimal care. And the paperwork, the endless documentation required by insurance companies and government agencies, felt like a soul-crushing exercise in futility. The patients, many of whom were uninsured or underinsured, faced a multitude of challenges beyond their medical conditions. They struggled with poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, and lack of access to basic health care. Anya found herself spending more and more time addressing these social determinants of health, feeling like she was treating the symptoms of a much larger problem. The emotional toll was immense. She witnessed unimaginable suffering, children battling cancer, families torn apart by loss, and patients struggling to cope with chronic illnesses. She tried to maintain a professional distance, but the weight of their pain was often overwhelming. She started to experience nightmares, reliving traumatic events from her day. She became irritable, snapping at her colleagues and withdrawing from her friends and family. She lost her appetite, her sleep became erratic, and she felt a constant sense of anxiety. She knew she was burning out, but she didn't know how to stop. She felt trapped, obligated to continue, driven by a sense of duty and a fear of letting her patients down. She tried to talk to her colleagues, but they were all struggling with the same issues. They offered each other sympathetic nods and shared stories of their own struggles, but there was no real solution. The hospital offered employee assistance programs, but Anya was hesitant to seek help. She feared being stigmatized, worried that her colleagues would see her as weak or incompetent. She didn't want to admit that she was struggling, that she couldn't handle the pressure. So she continued to push herself, to ignore the warning signs, to pretend that everything was okay. The bathroom became her refuge, a place where she could momentarily escape the chaos and the demands of her job. She would lock the door, lean against the cool tile wall, and let the tears flow. She would take deep breaths, trying to calm her racing heart and quiet the incessant voices in her head. She would remind herself of why she had chosen this profession, of the good she had done, of the life she had touched. And then she would wipe her face, compose herself, and return to the front lines. Today was particularly difficult. She had lost a young patient, a bright-eyed girl named Lily who had been battling leukemia for the past 2 years. Anya had grown close to Lily and her family, becoming deeply invested in their journey. She had held their hands, offered them words of comfort, and fought tirelessly to save Lily's life. But in the end, the cancer had won. Anya had watched Lily slip away, her small body ravaged by the disease. She had felt a profound sense of failure, a crushing weight of guilt. She had promised Lily's parents that she would do everything she could to save their daughter, but she had failed. She couldn't shake the image of Lily's lifeless body, her once vibrant eyes now dull and vacant. She couldn't bear to face Lily's parents, to offer them empty platitudes and hollow condolences. So she had retreated to the bathroom, seeking solace in the sterile silence. As the tears subsided, Anya stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face pale and drawn. She looked exhausted, defeated, like a shadow of her former self. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her. "This can't go on," she whispered to herself, her voice hoarse. "I can't keep doing this to myself." She knew she needed to make a change, to find a way to cope with the stress and the emotional toll of her job. She couldn't continue to sacrifice her own well-being for the sake of her patients. She needed to prioritize her own health, to find a balance between her personal and professional life. But how? The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered. She had no idea where to start. She thought about quitting, about abandoning her career altogether. But the thought filled her with dread. She had invested so much time and energy into her medical education, she had dedicated her life to helping others. She couldn't imagine doing anything else. She considered switching to a less demanding specialty, perhaps dermatology or radiology. But the thought of abandoning her patients, of leaving them in the hands of others, felt like a betrayal. She was a doctor, she was a healer, she was supposed to save lives. She couldn't just walk away. She sighed, running her hands through her hair. She felt trapped, caught between her sense of duty and her own self-preservation. She needed to find a way to reconcile these conflicting demands, to find a sustainable path forward. She splashed cold water on her face, trying to clear her head. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She knew she couldn't solve all of her problems in one day, but she could take small steps. She could start by seeking help, by talking to a therapist or joining a support group. She could prioritize self-care by exercising, eating healthy, and getting enough sleep. She could set boundaries by learning to say no and delegating tasks when possible. She could focus on the positive by celebrating her successes and appreciating the small moments of joy in her work. She could reconnect with her friends and family by spending more time with the people she loved. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to try. She owed it to herself, to her patients, and to her family. She wouldn't let the stress and the emotional toll of her job destroy her. She would find a way to thrive, to find meaning and purpose in her work without sacrificing her own well-being. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and walked out of the bathroom, ready to face the challenges of the day. The fluorescent lights still buzzed, the chaos still reigned, but Anya felt a flicker of hope, a glimmer of resilience. She was still a doctor, she was still a healer, and she was still capable of making a difference. And she was also a human being worthy of care and compassion. As Anya walked down the hall, she noticed a young intern, his face etched with the same exhaustion and despair she had felt moments before. He was leaning against a wall, his eyes closed, his body slumped with fatigue. Anya paused, hesitating for a moment. She knew what he was going through. She had been there herself. She could offer him a word of encouragement, a gesture of support. She could let him know that he wasn't alone, that it was okay to struggle, that it was possible to find a way through. She took a deep breath and walked towards him. "Hey," she said softly, her voice gentle. "Are you okay?" The intern opened his eyes, startled. He looked at Anya, his expression a mixture of surprise and relief. "Not really," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's been a tough day." "I know," Anya said, nodding understandingly. "It's tough for all of us." She paused, then added, "But we'll get through it. Together." The intern smiled, a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Thanks," he said. "I appreciate that." Anya smiled back. "Anytime," she said. "Just remember to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup." She squeezed his shoulder gently and continued down the hall, her step a little lighter, her heart a little fuller. She had a long way to go, but she was on the right path. She was learning to heal herself, one small step at a time. The journey wouldn't be easy and there would be setbacks. She knew that. But she also knew that she was stronger than she thought, more resilient than she believed. She was a doctor, a healer, a survivor. And she would find a way to thrive, to live a life of purpose and meaning, despite the challenges and the sacrifices. The tears in the bathroom were no longer a sign of weakness, but a reminder of her humanity, a symbol of her commitment to caring for others, and a testament to her unwavering spirit. The hospital, with all its flaws and its challenges, was still a place of hope, a place of healing, a place where she could make a difference. And she was grateful for the opportunity to serve, to heal, to make the world a little bit better, one patient at a time. The weight on her shoulders hadn't vanished, the exhaustion wasn't magically cured, but a small seed of hope had been planted. The recognition that her own well-being was not a luxury, but a necessity was the first step. The first step towards a sustainable future, both for herself and for the countless patients who depended on her. The faint, ever-present hum of the fluorescent lights still lingered, but it no longer sounded like a relentless hammer. Now it was almost hopeful. Thank you for listening. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, exhausted, or like you're holding yourself together with just a thread, please know you are not alone. Burnout doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And healing begins the moment we stop pretending we're okay and start reaching out. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to care for yourself today. A breath, a break, a conversation. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. And you deserve care too. If this helped you in any way, feel free to share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of healing, resilience, and hope. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next time.